This story is complicated and dangerous, but I would say this is being. I'm going to be very careful with my language. The story is being framed as a male predator pretending to be trans, or maybe legitimately trans, to exploit the system and target children and destroy businesses. This seems to be. This is being framed by many people as an instance of someone abusing civil rights law for just like complete chaos to watch the world burn. That's how it's being framed by many people on the right. However, we're not really seeing it addressed by the left or the mainstream media at all. But here's the story. From the National Post. Accusations fly at human rights hearing into transgender woman's Brazilian wax complaint. A substantive question remained at the core of the raucous day-long hearing. Should a business be allowed to deny service on the basis of gender identity? This is where things get, you know what, man, I don't even know how to address this story. This is insane. But you basically have a human being with male privates who identifies as a female trying to get a female service, a Brazilian wax. Here's the important thing. Actually, let me stop right here and say this. When it comes to the bakery case in Colorado, this is an issue of someone writing words on a cake and arguing they shouldn't have to produce speech that goes against their religious beliefs. Religion is a protected class, and it's a complicated story. In this instance, we can see there's a bit of nuance. Look, my opinion is it's not your speech. I understand if you don't want to, but is it easier just to do it? Well, it honestly comes down to a coin toss. How much easier is it to just go to a different bakery? It's a small business. Why bother why bother with it? But I do feel like if you are participating in public, using public infrastructure, and someone who pays taxes, which funds the infrastructure to your building, be it plumbing, electricity, etc., you should service them to a reasonable extent. Now, this pushes me to my limits because it's simple, right? Like, just make a cake and write a little message, not a big deal. However, what happens then when you have a trans woman with male privates telling a female they have to touch your genitals to do this job? All of a sudden now, it gets pretty damn weird. And there's not one solution to this problem. Thus, as I've said time and time again, the more we try to expand civil rights protections, the more we actually take them away. Case in point, the Colorado baker. It's against his religion to engage in a practice. Well, is that an excuse? We now take away the right for someone to engage in a religious practice or belief based on the protections of someone else. We've stripped away someone's rights in exchange for someone else's. In this story, who's protected? A woman's right to not be forced to touch the genitals of someone they don't want to, or a trans woman's right to be serviced? You got yourself a heck of a conundrum here, civil rights activists. Let's read. A human rights tribunal hearing devolved into repeated outbursts and name-calling this week as it considered a trans woman's complaint that a home-based salon discriminated against her by denying her a Brazilian wax. At one point, the complainant compared the business owner to a neo-Nazi. The lawyer for the business owner accused the complainant of engaging in half-truths and fabrications. Tribunal adjudicator Devin Cosino frequently had to interject to maintain decorum and to keep the hearing from careening off course. But a substantive question remained at the core of the raucous day-long hearing. Should a business be allowed to deny service on the basis of gender identity? Jessica Yaniv, the complainant, told the hearing she was entitled to receive the advertised wax service and that if the tribunal ruled against her, it could lead to a dangerous precedent. You cannot choose who your clientele is going to be, she said. Look, man, I agree with Yaniv. I've made this point. You cannot. If you want to pass these laws, this is what you will get. The law says as much. Now, I've frequently made the point about New York City and recognizing all genders, including public accommodation, names, etc. I've brought up a somewhat silly contention that you can make someone say whatever name you want. Starbucks, for instance, will yell your name when your drink is done. I don't know if they still do this. It was a big controversy when people put their name as Trump because they're like, I refuse to say that. Well, what if you look very masculine, you say your name is Sarah, and someone says, I'm not yelling that name, that's not your name. Well, that's a violation because they're denying you a public accommodation. What if your name is something really, really offensive? Or what if, because of the law states your name can be whatever you want, what if you just say, hey, my name is, a swear word? I'm not going to yell that out loud, but you have to. Well, that could be laughed out of court. In this instance, though, now things get damn confusing. How can the law be upheld if you will compel a woman to touch the genitals of a man? In a Brazilian wax, you need specific techniques. I believe Brazilian is specifically for females, and I think they bring this up. But obviously, men and women are different. Males and females are different. It's a very touchy subject to try and talk about. If a woman, if an individual is not trained to perform the male version, they can't. Is it then the business's fault? Should every salon be now mandated to provide male and female service? Where do you draw the line? Let's read more. They say business owner Marcia da Silva said she was not comfortable carrying out a Brazilian wax on a person with male genitals, nor did she have the training for it. Jay Cameron, Da Silva's lawyer and litigation manager with the Alberta-based Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, told the hearing that a ruling against his client would be tantamount to ordering intimate services against someone's will. This is just so weird. The complaint heard Wednesday is one of more than a dozen filed by Yaniv, who described herself as a digital marketing expert and LGBTQ activist. All allege she was the subject of discrimination by salons. A few complaints have been settled without hearing or withdrawn. Yaniv also made headlines recently for engaging in a social media spat with free speech advocate Lindsay Shepherd, in which they both made disparaging remarks at each other. Twitter subsequently banned Shepherd from the platform, but not Yaniv. You can't have this. You can't have one. So what happened with Shepherd was Yaniv insulted her uteral abnormality, and that's okay. But then when Shepherd insults back, she gets banned. You can't have these double standards. I'm sorry, you can't. That's why many people believe Yaniv is faking it and pretending and just trying to get special benefits. Yaniv today talked about advocating for, topless children and I can't even get into it. It really does make one believe Yaniv is just exploiting the system. But at least these exploits will reveal the holes in the system and perhaps force the system to correct itself. These are questions that need to be answered. We're in the process of developing new civics, new social regulations, norms, and laws, and they'll be tested, and within 10 or 20 years, we'll know for sure what is or isn't acceptable. For the time being, we're going to see absolute, I don't know, man. How do you tell a woman she has to touch a dude? I don't know where you answer this one. Let's read on. The tribunal had initially issued a publication ban shielding Yaniv's identity, but on Wednesday, Cosano decided to lift the ban based on Yaniv's social media presence and public advocacy. At Wednesday's hearing, Yaniv, who was representing herself, said she came upon a Facebook ad in spring 2018 offering a promotion for a Brazilian wax, which involves the removal of hair around the groin. Da Silva testified she had started her home-based business after previously performing waxes on family and friends. Yaniv was the first person to respond to her ad. The first person, and her business already gets shut down. They agreed over text messages to an afternoon appointment, but Yaniv testified that after identifying herself as transgender and sending Da Silva a selfie, Da Silva canceled the session. Da Silva told the tribunal, "I have no problem with LGBT." She said she was just not comfortable waxing male genitals. The idea also did not sit well with her husband, she said. Further, she didn't have any experience doing it. Everyone has the right to decide who comes in their home, she added, noting that she was also uncomfortable with the persistent messages she was getting from Yaniv. For my safety, I said no. Think about it. Whether or not you will see a widespread, group of predators exploiting the system for, fetish ends is irrelevant. One person is enough. Should the law be able to compel a woman to service a male? In which case, I think, man, I just don't know what the answers are. And while it's really easy to point to the baker and say, look, man, you just got to bake a cake. I get it. It's the same principle here when it's like, okay, but then should a male be able to get services from a female who doesn't want to touch a male? Look, when I go to the airport and I get a pat down, I can request like a mail or something like that. You can ask for it. Can they get rid of that? Is that against the rules? Like, where do we draw the line? I honestly don't know. So they say Da Silva told the tribunal she defined someone who is transgender as a person who has undergone sex reassignment surgery. She responded affirmatively when asked if she'd perform the waxing service on someone who had undergone such surgery. Yaniv said the advertisement Da Silva posted was open to the public and didn't come with any conditions. She said that Da Silva should have accepted that Yaniv identifies as female rather than make assumptions about her based on her appearance. Your gender identity is your own, Yaniv testified. We live in a different day and age now. At one point, Yaniv equated the denial of service to neo-Nazism. Oh, congratulations, we made it this far. However, Yaniv tried to tell the tribunal that she was intersex and that she had female body parts. But Cameron accused her of an outright fabrication. You're attempting to mislead the tribunal. Cameron called Yaniv's credibility into question and earlier suggested that Yaniv had used a fake Facebook profile of a pregnant woman when she initially sought out the waxing service. It sounds like, based on the history of this individual, at least many are framing it this way, that she's trying to exploit this for legal benefits. Just to make a point, I don't know. But all I can really say is that, look, she's done this over and over again, numerous salons. She's got a rather controversial history, and many people believe that it's an exploit, that it's just gaming the system or attempting to watch the world burn. I have no idea. Regardless of that, let's set aside whatever your personal beliefs are and just say this. Yaniv has a good point. If the business says you can't discriminate, then the Brazilian wax can't discriminate. And I think she might win. But you'll also see this is extremely disruptive to commerce, and it's going to result in a collapse of small business. It's going to I don't even know. I don't even know. All I know is here's the point I wanted to bring up with the story. It's hard to parse, but current human rights law are conflicting and need to be sorted out, and who knows where we'll end up. I'll leave it there. Thanks for hanging out. Next segment will be coming up tomorrow at 10 a.m., and I will see you all then.